I scrubbed harder, raw skin, scalding water, but his scent clung to me. It was in my hair, between my thighs, and my husband was knocking at the door. "Baby, you okay?" I bit my lip to stop from screaming. I could still feel it, his hands gripping my hips, the way he whispered, "You beg prettier than I thought you would," while I clawed at his dorm sheets. I had told myself it was just curiosity, a one-time lapse. But the bruises were shaped like fingerprints. Last night, while Alan snored next to me, I deleted Marco's messages one by one. "You taste like regret. You're wetter when you say no." I almost saved that one. Instead, I typed, "I can't anymore," hovered, and didn't send it. I shut off the water, stepped out, and I knew I was going back. It's funny how quiet destruction can be. People think affairs start with fireworks, sweaty glances, breathless touches, but mine started with boredom, or maybe grief, or both. I still don't know which came first. Dr. Halbrook asks me to map the timeline, but everything's out of order. A pile of shattered glass doesn't reassemble neatly. One moment I'm at dinner with Alan, laughing over bad wine and worse jokes. The next, I'm in a campus office, trying not to stare at the veins in Marco's forearms as he leans over my desk. But before Marco, there was the silence. After the miscarriage, Alan and I stopped touching each other. He started staying late. At the hospital, he's a trauma nurse, while I buried myself in lectures and lesson plans. We stopped asking how each other's days were. I used to write him notes in his lunchbox. One day I just didn't, and he never asked why. Flash. I'm in my office again. Marco's there, asking about a paper extension, but his eyes don't leave my mouth when I speak. I remember feeling it then, like something inside me blinked awake. Flash. Alan and I in bed, back to back. No arguments, no passion. Just silence thick enough to choke on. Dr. Halbrook says, "When did you first feel emotionally unsafe?" I want to laugh. Emotionally unsafe? I felt nothing. That's what made it so easy to fall. One night I came home from work, and Alan had made dinner. Candles, music. He kissed my cheek like it was 2009. We sat at the table, and I tried to hold a normal conversation, but my skin crawled. The food tasted like dust. All I could think about was Marco's voice in my office that afternoon. "I like the way you say my name." Flash. Marco sends me a DM at 1:14 a.m. "Couldn't sleep. Thought about what you wore today." I stared at it for 10 minutes. Typed, "Don't message me outside class." Deleted it. Typed, "Then what happened?" Sent. I told myself I was curious, that I was studying him, his boldness, his youth. But even now, as I sit across from Dr. Halbrook with my hands shaking in my lap, I can't say I was innocent. Not then. Not ever. The cracks were there long before Marco walked into my classroom. I just didn't see them until he slipped between them like smoke. He came in late, the first time I noticed him. Second row, left side. Hoodie pulled over a sharp jawline, tattoo curling up his neck like smoke from a lit match. Marco Rivera, 22, political science major. Barely passed the midterm and... Yet, his essays were unnervingly eloquent, like he understood things he had no business understanding. That day, I was lecturing on moral relativism. He raised his hand. "What if morality isn't real?" he said. "What if it's just a cage designed by people too scared to live without consequences?" His classmates laughed nervously. I didn't. I felt seen, stripped. After class, he stayed behind, said he liked the way I challenged him, said most professors were afraid to get messy. "I'm not afraid of mess," he said, I should have ended it there. I should have never let him stay. But I did. Again and again. He started coming to office hours with questions that blurred philosophy and flirtation. Do you think humans are wired for monogamy? Have you ever wanted something you weren't supposed to touch? I knew the game. I wasn't stupid, but he wasn't playing it like a boy. He didn't chase. He waited, patient, deliberate, until I came to him. And I did. I began dressing differently on days I taught his class. Silk instead of cotton. Lipstick I hadn't worn in years. I told myself it was for me. Liar. He'd lean over my desk, close enough for his cologne to wrap around my throat. Sandalwood and smoke. One afternoon, our hands brushed. Accidentally, of course. And he didn't pull away. Neither did I. He said my name once. Claire. Not Professor Darnell. And it dropped into my stomach like a stone. No student had ever called me that. Before. It didn't sound disrespectful. It sounded intimate. That night, I dreamt about him. Not sex, at least, not at first. We were talking, arguing, until suddenly his hands were in my hair, and his mouth was against mine like he needed me, like he'd die without the taste. I woke up soaked and trembling. Alan lay beside me, unmoved. I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through my class roster, rereading Marco's student file like it was a love letter. Puerto Rican, lives off campus, former athlete, his emergency contact, was a woman with the same last name. Mother? Sister? I didn't care. I wanted to know everything. Obsession doesn't start with lust. It starts with curiosity. When he missed a class, I felt a sickness in my gut. I refreshed my email, checked the door. He showed up late, smirking, said he'd been distracted. You miss me? He asked. I made a joke. He didn't laugh. Maybe I wanted you to, he added. You ever think about that? That was the moment. The axis shifted. My mouth said, that's inappropriate. But my legs crossed. My breath caught. My body betrayed me first. My mind followed quickly. The next time he stayed after class, I offered him tea. He sat on the edge of my desk, legs parted, eyes trained on mine like he was waiting for a command. I like your glasses, he said. I don't wear them for compliments. No, he said. You wear them so no one sees your eyes when you want something. I didn't respond, couldn't. He slid his finger across my stapler like it was my thigh. Do you want something, Claire? It wasn't about age. It wasn't about sex. It was the way he looked at me like he knew I was starving. Like he liked it. Marco wasn't a student anymore, not in that moment. He was temptation in human form, beautiful, volatile, and designed to ruin me, and part of me wanted to be ruined. That night, I sat at my desk long after the building emptied. Alan texted, "Dinner's in the oven." I didn't reply. Instead, I stared at Marco's last email. Thanks for the feedback. You always make me think differently. I clicked reply. Thinking differently can be dangerous. Then I hit send. The fuse was lit, and I was already watching the flames. March 3rd. Diary entry, private, unreadable scrawl. I dreamed of him again. Only this time, Alan was watching. He didn't speak, just stood in the doorway, eyes blank, as Marco pulled my hair and whispered things I can't write. I didn't stop. Him. I didn't want to. What's wrong with me? Reality started bleeding. It wasn't a clean break. No dramatic shift. Just seepage. A slow rot behind polished glass. Marco smiled at me in class, and I'd forget what I was saying. Students waited, pens poised, while my mouth hung open, flushed with heat I tried to hide. One afternoon, I saw him on campus talking to another girl, a classmate. She touched his chest when she laughed. He didn't pull away. I walked straight, past them, heels clicking, throat dry. My lecture that day was ice cold. I didn't call on him once. That night, I dreamed I ripped her hair out. That night, I masturbated in the shower and whispered his name while Alan watched a documentary about sea turtles downstairs. March 10th, therapy session recording, transcript, Dr. Halbrook. Claire, you're shaking. Me. I keep seeing him when he's not there. It's like phantom pain. Like I miss a part of myself I didn't even know I had. Dr. Halbrook. This doesn't sound like desire anymore. This sounds like compulsion. Me. It is. And it's beautiful. He emailed me a paragraph on Camus and added, "Life's only meaning is what we give it. I give mine to you." I stared at the screen for 10 full minutes before closing my laptop. Then I opened it again. Then I printed it and slid it between the pages of my journal like a pressed flower. I started seeing him in reflections. Bathroom mirrors, lecture, hall windows, the chrome of my coffee mug. I'd blink and he'd be gone. But for those brief seconds, I could feel his breath against my neck. He never touched me. Not yet. But it didn't matter. The not touching was worse. March 17th, diary entry, ink smudged with water. He didn't come today. I checked the roster 5 times. Refresh. Nothing. I imagined he was in bed with someone else. I imagined strangling her. Then I imagined being her. I need to stop. I can't stop. Alan kissed my shoulder while I washed dishes. I jerked like I'd been electrocuted. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, just tired." He stood there like he wanted to say something else. Then he walked away. I used to want his arms around me. Now his touch felt like shrink wrap, tight, suffocating, unnatural. When he touched me, I felt guilt. When Marco didn't touch me, I felt hunger. I was starving. I started writing things I never intended to send. Draft message, unsent. Marco, I think about you so much it's making me sick. I can't eat. I can't sleep. You haunt me. Is that what you want? Delete. Draft message, unsent. Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me you feel it too. Delete. Draft message, unsent. Come to my office. Lock the door behind you. Saved to drafts. March 21st. Imagined conversation. In Claire's head. Marco. Why are you afraid of wanting me? Me. Because if I want you, I have to admit I've been dead inside for years. Marco. Then, louder. My lectures became hollow. My students noticed. One girl asked if I was okay. I told her I had a cold. Another lie on a growing heap. The only time I felt alive was when Marco spoke. It didn't matter what he said. He could have read the phone book and I would have needed to excuse myself to the restroom. He started sending messages without words. Just photos, his hand gripping a pen, jawline in profile, the curve of his lips with a cigarette between them. Never explicit. But everything was implication. Everything screamed, "You're already mine." I imagined him in my bed. Then I imagined him in my husband's spot. Then I imagined them both. Alan on one side, kissing my neck. Marco on the other, biting it. I came to the image of both their hands holding me down, and I cried after. March 28th. Diary entry, I think I want to be ruined. Not just touched, not just desired. I want to be broken open. I want to be punished. I want someone to look at me and say, "You were worth destroying everything for." I wore red that Thursday. Tight. Cheap. Not my style. Too bold, too young. But when Marco saw me, he stared for a beat too long. Trying to kill me? He whispered as he walked by. I laughed. It wasn't real. Nothing was real anymore. That night, I stood naked in the mirror. I traced the curve of my waist with a lipstick tube, then smeared it across my collarbone like a bruise. Alan opened the door. What are you doing? Getting dressed. For what? I didn't answer. April 1st. Therapy session recording. Transcript and Dr. Halbrook. Do you feel ashamed? Me. No, that's the worst part. I feel alive. Dr. Halbrook. Claire, I need to be honest. This is dangerous. You're fantasizing in ways that remove consent and safety. That's not seduction. That's self-harm. Me. Then maybe I want to bleed. I bought a burner phone. I told myself it was for emergencies. I gave Marco the number. Now you have a direct line to my sins, I texted. He replied with a single word. Good. I wrote his name on a post-it and put it under my pillow. When Alan kissed me goodnight, I imagined it was Marco's mouth. Then I imagined Alan finding the note, reading it, confronting me, screaming, hitting walls, breaking furniture. I imagined sobbing, apologizing, begging. Then I imagined Marco pulling me from the wreckage, blood on his knuckles, saying, "You're mine now." I moaned in my sleep. Alan told me in the morning. I told him I didn't remember the dream. But I did. I remembered everything. April 5th. Diary entry. He touched my wrist today, just a second, just a brush. I felt it between my legs for the rest of the day. I am not a woman anymore. I am a matchstick waiting for a spark. It happened on a Thursday, rain tapping the office windows like fingertips on glass. I told myself he was just coming to discuss his final paper. I even printed feedback, wrote comments in red ink like some kind of shield. But when he closed, the door behind him clicked the lock. I knew. This wasn't about school. It never was. He didn't say a word, just stood there, staring at me. Wet hair from the storm, hoodie darkened and clinging to his chest. My pulse stuttered. My throat tightened. I should have said no. I could have. Instead, I leaned back on the desk and opened my legs. The silence was thick. He walked toward me like a man with nothing to lose, palms grazing the desk on either side of my thighs. "You've been torturing me," he whispered. "No, more than you've tortured me," I said. He kissed me, not soft, not slow. It was punishment. It was surrender. His hands buried in my hair, teeth tugging at my bottom lip like he wanted to draw blood. I let him. When he pushed my blouse off my shoulders, I heard a voice, Alan's, echo in my head. "You've been distant lately." I flinched. Marco noticed. "You want to stop?" I shook my head. Liar. I wanted to stop. And I wanted to disappear into him so completely that no one would recognize what I used to be. My skirt hit the floor. His fingers found skin that hadn't been touched in months, maybe years. He didn't. He took, and I gave it all. When he bent me over my own desk, I stared at the family photo by the lamp. Alan, me, Cabo 2017. I almost reached for it. Almost hit it. But I didn't. I watched it. I wanted it to watch me. He drove into me like he was erasing someone else's name inside me. Like he knew he wasn't the first, but wanted to be the last. And I cried. Not loud. Not out of pain. Out of some twisted, shattered version of release. Like my body had been holding in a scream for years, and he finally cracked it open. He pulled my head back, kissed the tears off my cheek. "Fuck, you're beautiful like this," he breathed, and I hated him for it. Because I was beautiful. Because I felt alive. And because I knew he was right. I only looked that way when I was being destroyed. After, we didn't speak. He dressed slowly, like he wasn't sure if this was real or still part of the fantasy we'd both been living. Inside, I wrapped myself in a coat. Not my clothes, not my skin. I couldn't feel anything until he touched my face. Just a soft press of his thumb under my chin. "You'll think about this tonight," he said. "When you're in his bed." And I did. That night, Alan made love to me gently, eyes closed, lips tender. I bit my lip so I wouldn't say Marco's name. I kept my legs closed tighter than usual, afraid Alan might feel something different inside me. I cried in the bathroom. After, blamed it on hormones. He rubbed my back, told me to go to bed early, said I'd been overworking myself. He kissed me, and I tasted Marco. The second time was faster, rougher, his place, an off-campus studio with no furniture but a mattress, on the floor and blackout curtains. He slammed the door like he'd been holding back for days. No foreplay, just stripping, just teeth, just hands and friction and breath. He came with his mouth on my throat. I came with his fingers inside me, thinking about Alan's laugh. Why Alan? Because I wanted to suffer. I left with bruises, thighs, hips, wrists. I covered them with makeup and scarves. I deleted my texts every night. I lied to Alan so easily it scared me. "I have a department meeting. I'm grabbing drinks with a friend. I'm working late again." He never questioned it. Why would he? I was Claire Darnell. Wore pearls. I used meal prep containers. I corrected grammar in news articles. But under it all, I was bleeding, addicted, hollowed out. I started begging for it, not with words, with looks, with late-night messages, with half-buttoned blouses and accidental touches in the hallway. I wanted Marco to use me like a weapon. I needed it. Because the more he took from me, the less of myself I had left. To hate. The third time, he tied my wrists. I asked him to. He whispered filthy things in Spanish I didn't understand. I asked him not to translate. When it was over, he lay beside me and asked, "Do you love him?" I stared at the ceiling. "I don't know," I said. "Do you love me?" I rolled over, curled into his chest, and lied through my teeth. "No." He laughed. And for a moment, I hated myself less, because lying felt more honest than the truth. It started unraveling with one careless detail: the earring. One of the gold hoops I wore the day Marco pinned me to his mattress, buried beneath his sheets, lost in the frenzy. I'd noticed it missing the next morning. Heart spiking, eyes darting around the house like guilt had a scent. I told myself it would be fine. But Alan noticed, at dinner, holding my face gently as I talked. "You're only wearing one," he said, frowning. "Lose it at work?" "Yeah," I replied. Too fast. "In the faculty lounge, I think." He nodded, but didn't smile. The next morning, he lingered by my bag as I got dressed. Said he was looking for gum. I watched his eyes track every zipper, every corner. That night, I double-checked my phone's lock screen and started sleeping with it, under the pillow. It wasn't enough. Marco texted something he never had before. "Marco, if you were mine, I'd never let you go home." I stared at the message for a long time. Something in it felt off, possessive, like he'd crossed an invisible line neither of us had admitted existed. I typed, "You knew what this was." then deleted it. I typed, "Don't start confusing this," then deleted that too. I said nothing. But the next day, he was waiting outside my house, in his car, parked across the street, engine running, hoodie up, watching. Alan was inside, flossing in the bathroom. I saw him through the second-floor window, completely unaware that the boy I'd been fucking was sitting 30 feet from his front door, staring at the house like it owed him something. I didn't go out. I didn't message him. I just turned off the light and stared at the ceiling. And I knew. It was all going to fall apart. The next crack came when Alan found the burner. It was in the bottom of my gym bag. I'd forgotten it. 1 second of thoughtlessness. 1 second. He was holding it in his hand when I came back from class. "What the fuck is this, Claire?" I froze. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. It's nothing," I stammered. "It's not active. I used it for school safety protocols." He threw it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered into pieces. "Don't insult me," he hissed. "Don't lie. Not now." I cried then. Real tears. Gasping, choking, sobbing tears. Not because he was hurt. Not because I felt bad. But because I had no idea who I was anymore. "Tell me who he is," Alan said, voice shaking. "Tell me. Who you let inside our home. Inside you." I opened my mouth, but his name didn't come out. Nothing did. I left the next morning. Not permanently. Not officially. I told Alan I needed space, that I was sick, that I was lost. He said nothing. Just nodded. Like he'd known this version of me was coming for a long, long time. I went to a hotel. I stared at the wall. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. Marco called. 10 times. I didn't answer. He texted. "Marco, I know something's wrong. Tell me where you are." Marco, "I can fix this." Marco, "I love you." Love. That broke me more than anything else. Because suddenly, I realized I wanted to be caught. I wanted the curtain torn away. I wanted Alan to scream. I wanted Marco to be exposed for what he was. An obsession I had built with my own too. Shaking hands. April 18th. Final diary entry. Never finished. Alan found the phone. Marco waited outside my house. And me? I stood between them. 2 men I lied to. One who loved me too late. One who never really loved me at all. I'm the villain. Not because I cheated. Not because I lied. But because I don't even know which of them I wanted to destroy me more. 2 days later, I came home to a house missing photos. The wedding picture was gone. The framed beach trip. The bookshelf of vacation souvenirs. Alan hadn't left, but he'd erased himself from our memories. That was worse. He looked at me like I was a stranger who'd broken in. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He simply said, "You chose chaos over love. I hope he was worth it." I wanted to scream. He wasn't. But I didn't. Because part of me still wasn't sure. I still get emails from the university. Department updates, committee assignments, reminders about curriculum revisions I'll never touch again. I don't click them, but I don't unsubscribe either. Sometimes I wonder if Marco's name still sits on the class rosters, if someone else stands where I stood, watching his mouth move as he asks a question too mature for his age. If he leans in close to her, whispers something dangerous and sweet. I deleted every message, every photo, every trace of him, but not the earring. It's in the back of my jewelry box, beneath old receipts and forgotten perfume samples. I found it the week after Alan moved into the guest room. Funny how something so small could hold the weight of everything I lost. He hasn't filed for divorce. He doesn't wear his ring anymore. We eat dinner in silence. We pass each other like museum exhibits. Too careful, too fragile to touch. Sometimes he stares at me like he's memorizing someone who's already gone. He doesn't ask about him. He doesn't need to. I haven't seen Marco since the last message he sent. Marco, I hope you think of me when he touches you. I hope it never goes away. He was right. It hasn't. There are nights I wake up with phantom hands on my skin, heart racing like he's still inside me. I press my thighs together, just to remember what it felt like. Being wanted so violently it blurred the lines of who I thought I was. I know that's sick. I know it's wrong. But sometimes, being ruined is the only time you feel real. Yesterday, I stood in the shower until my skin wrinkled. Scrubbing. Trying to peel him off me. Not Marco. Myself. The version of me who said yes. Who locked the door. Who opened her legs and swallowed the guilt. But she's still here. Smiling in the mirror with someone else's hunger behind her eyes. The truth? I don't miss Marco. I miss the woman he made me feel like. Powerful, desired, reckless, alive. And that's the worst part. Because now I'm just breathing, not living, and I don't know which one is worse.